I'd like to call to order the November 26th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dallo?
Here.
Ms. DeSico?
Here.
Ms. Casali? Here. Ms. Boutros?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Apone?
Here.
Mr. Wozniak?
Here.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First item is approval of the agenda.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, approval of the minutes from the October 22nd meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, correspondence. We received a missive from the Rochester Hills Planning Department. Mr. Nguyen, do you want to explain?
This is the standard procedure, Mr. Chairman, where the adjoining communities are required by state law to send us copies of their plans to review and comment on. Obviously, we have a common boundary with Rochester Hills along to Quinder. There are no obvious conflicts between their planning policies and ours, and we would offer a recommendation of support. I know when we did our plan, it was always nice when communities responded.
Sure. Are there any questions for the planner? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to support the adoption of the City of Rochester Hills Master Plan.
Is there support? Okay, moved by DeSico, support by Dallu. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Mr. Dallu?
Yes.
Mr. Casali? Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Apone?
Yes.
Commissioner Wozniak?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay. Under site plans, first item is a Class A non-conforming use for Jacob Barker. I need you to come on up. That microphone sitting on the podium is live, so need your name and your address and then what you're requesting.
My name is Jacob Barker, and I don't no longer live here, but I live in Lake Orion. It's 3945 Rahr Street, Lake Orion, Michigan. But my old address is 4139 Auburn Road, Shelby Township.
Okay.
And I'm seeking a variance for the property because it's zone commercial, but it's got a residential house on it. And one of the things that we encountered when we are you supposed to be talking? Or?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Was that they couldn't complete the appraisal on the property in the event that the house were to catch fire. It would have been a total loss, and they wouldn't be able to rebuild the house because the property was zone commercial. So what I was seeking is you know, I know it has different uses and stuff like that, but I was hoping that I could get non-conforming so that they could complete the appraisal and I could ultimately complete the sale of the property of the house.
Wonderful. You actually did that better than Mr. Nguyen does it. So.
That was a really good explanation, because nonconformity is a difficult concept.
Yeah, no, it's good. We do
You did a
deal
great
with it.
job explaining it.
Thank you. I was nervous.
No,
You were well
excellent.
prepared.
Mr. Nguyen, anything to add?
No, and we get these frequently, and it's always because of a sale. There's no harm in, if you don't allow this, there's no opportunity to reinvest in that. So we put this in the ordinance to give these opportunities to people in this gentleman's position. We support the change, and we're happy to. If this is approved, if the company needs a letter from us documenting that, we're happy to do that.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's what they seek in order to move forward.
Okay. Is there any questions for the petitioner? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
move to approve the Class A non-conforming use application for Jacob Barker, 4139 Auburn Road, based on the following findings. The continued use of the existing single-family home will not negatively impact any abutting land uses. The Class A designation would allow the applicant to rebuild this site if destroyed by a fire or other natural disaster. There are no plans to develop the C1 zoned portion of the site for commercial purposes at this time, and the C2 zoning designation is not appropriate for this location, given surrounding development pattern, which consists largely of single-family homes.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Turner, support by Moore. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wozniak?
Yes.
Commissioner Apone?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico? Commissioner Dallu?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. How would I get the note or the?
You have your mortgage people contact our office or whoever is involved, and we'll send the letter to them.
Yes, sir, and thank you so much.
Sure. If you could sign in on your way out.
Raquel? Is it working? Just put your current address.
Your legal address. Okay, next item is a site plan number 18-28, special land use number 6, Simon Morrow, Shelby Creek Senior Living. This is a public hearing, so I'll ask our clerk to read the notices published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of an assisted and independent living facility. Applicant Simon Morrow, Shelby Creek Senior Living, 48657 Hayes Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48315. Proposed use, 43 independent living units, 123 assisted living units. Site plan number 18-28-SLU-6. Location north of 24 Mile Road, west of Van Dyke. Sidwell number 23-07-09-426-002. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, November 26, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the special land use application. The application for special land use and the site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on November 7th, 2018. 40 property owners and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on November 2nd, 2018.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the notice meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
We're doing a duet here with the microphone. And then could you explain the uses under the present zoning and if the special land use request is appropriate?
Sure. The current zoning is our R12, which is a multiple district. The petitioner is asking for age-restricted adult housing. Those are permitted as a special land use in this district.
Thank you. Secretary Moore, did we receive any correspondence on this request?
No, we did not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, the format for the public hearing will be as follows. I'll allow the petitioner to come up, state what they're requesting and their reasons for it, then turn it to the board to ask any questions. I'll then open it up to the public to offer any comments or seek clarification or ask any questions. We will take those questions, then I'll bring the petitioner back up and seek his responses. It's not a debate, so we try to keep this nice and orderly. So, and with that, I'll ask the petitioner to come up, name and address when you speak, and then after you're done, to sign in, please.
Good evening, Board. Mr. Moffett, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Simon Morrow, Morrow Engineering, at 48657 Hayes Road in Shelby Township here locally. And basically, this project was previously approved as a 99-unit senior complex back a few years ago. I don't know if you recall, if some of your board members were here. And then talking to different management groups, and they kind of seemed to think that 99 units was not it didn't seem like it fit like the agenda for some of these senior citizen housing. You needed to diversify, have a little bit of memory care, have a little bit of, and to make a long story short, we went to the state, we got it approved, they decided that 166, the sweet spot is around 150 units to 170 units. We were able to fit 166 units there with the adequate sizes of each unit, and they're described in the second sheet of that plan. And so we talked to different management groups, and this is what their suggestion was. This is what one of the reasons why we're here, to try to get this project approved. We meet every aspect of your ordinance. We went and apprehended a DEQ permit for the floodplain impacts and the wetlands impacts. We do have a permit from the Department of Environmental Quality. The site meets all the restrictions, all the parking requirements. The facilities will house,
Mr. Morrow, can you make sure you speak like
Okay.
into that? There you go.
the facilities will house 166 units. The discrepancy between the 165 units and the 166, they added one unit is a guest unit for some people out of town visiting their loved ones or whatnot. So that's why there's 166 units. There's plenty adequate space inside. I don't know if you had a chance to review the actual floor plans. Inside, there's a lot of facilities for the seniors to play cards or whatnot, have bingo games and all different kinds of facilities. I mean, it was very well planned and thought out by professional management groups that manage this sort of living. This is probably some place that I may want to end up living one day. I think we're not far from that. But it's a great location. The project is approximately 8 acres. It's on Van Dyke Road between 24 and 25 Mile Road on the west side of the road. I believe it's section 9. It's currently zoned R12.
I
Okay,
hate to-
that's right. It's currently zoned R12, and there's R12 uses on both sides. The whole zoning on that Van Dyke Road is all R12. As far as impacts, it's minimal impacts. There's not a lot of traffic created by these type of uses. As far as the schooling, there's not a lot of impacts for your schooling. As far as the water and sewer, there's adequate water services and sewer services on Van Dyke Road. We're providing a detention pond for any runoff water. All the water management will be on site. And we're leaving a lot of the open spaces green and providing bocce courts and whatnot, pizza ovens for the seniors, and it's going to be a very nice facility. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Do you have an operator under contract?
We are interviewing, yes, we're talking to a couple of different people. Mike Torres is one of them. There's another operator. There's a national operator that's very interested in a site. So it will be professionally done. This is going to be done to people with experience and licenses.
And you're comfortable that what you're proposing is adequate to their requirements?
Exactly. That's exactly. And in the plans, we spent almost 2 years reviewing and doing the plans with one of the top architects is Dan Tosh. I don't know, Progressive Architecture. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's one of the top designers for senior living in the state of Michigan. He's won numerous awards, so he knows exactly what to do and how he laid out the units. And that's the other reason why he thought that we needed the 40-foot height variance. It's actually a 5-foot height variance because of the height, because you got 12-foot ceilings or 10-foot ceilings with 2 foot of the ductworks and one not to go through there. So that's why the ceilings are a little bit taller than the 33 feet, whatever's the minimum.
Okay, have you done a market study?
Yes, there's a feasibility study that's been done. It's very positive. Otherwise, you don't get the funding.
Okay.
Right.
To the board, any questions?
I do have a question. So you are proposing a bridge over the middle branch of Clinton River, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Are you going to have railing or some sort of guardrail? Because I think there's a 6-foot drop
Yes,
from the
there is.
road to the drain.
Yes.
Okay. The only concern I have with it is one, access to the site. So if there is any problem with the box culvert or the bridge, any problems with the sanitary and water main, like any repairs that you need to do, the road will be shut down, and then we're trapping 166 units.
Right. The box culvert is in 3 sections, so more than likely, all 3 sections would have to fail. So there's always a portion that's going to be open. We thought about the same thing. So there's multiple layers of that
So
service.
if there is a problem with the sanitary sewer that's going underneath the box culvert, so the excavation, I guess the width of the trench, having vehicles working on the site, I think is going to shut down the road.
That would all have to be engineered. You're correct. But that could happen in any other service of a sanitary sewer. I mean, if you have one sanitary system
Correct,
going
but
into it.
just because this is over a river, so there's no way to get out, like if there's any emergency and then the road is shut down, then how the senior is going to get in and out?
Well, the road won't be shut down. temporarily. I mean, that could happen on any other road that you provide for any other development. I mean, what happens when your road shuts down? You could have
You
that.
provide access around it, like even if you have to drive on grass, this is a river, so you cannot avoid the.
Put in a second
Right,
driveway,
right.
you're suggesting?
Is there a way to do a secondary access?
I'm sure there is.
How?
You-
On where?
Provide a second driveway on the property. I mean, I don't know what the use would be. This driveway here is 33 feet wide onto Van Dyke. It's a commercial road. It's no different than another commercial road such as Van Dyke failing. I mean, what happens if Van Dyke shuts down? I mean, it's not, you know, this box culvert is going to be engineered for it not to fail, no different than any other bridge on 21 Mile Road or 22 Mile Road.
I
What
know.
happens when those bridges fail?
You have another access to go around it. This is the only drive going to the site. You see what I'm saying? This is the only drive to connect to your facility. If there's a problem with 24 mile, 25 mile, then you can go around it using 23 or 26 mile.
Can you explain that, the culverts in multiple pieces, is
There are
that?
3 sections of culverts. They're 10-foot box culverts. There's 3 of them. Chances are this is no different than the design bridge that they did 21 Mile Road through the Clinton River or someplace else that's got culverts and
Is there,
bridges.
and I'm gonna ask our resident engineer on the board here, what's the likelihood of those 3 components all failing at the same time?
They won't fail, like, it's not gonna fail all in 3 pieces, he's correct. But if there is any sanitary sewer is deep at this location to service your
Yes.
facility. So one piece to remove and replace sanitary sewer will not be enough. So you need to probably remove 2 pieces to replace sanitary sewer. And then the other portion that you're leaving, the vehicle is gonna come in and out to excavate. So that's why it's gonna be a temporary shutdown for the facility.
Okay, well, those facilities will never be shut down because under that instance, they'll pump the sanitary sewage into the next manhole. I mean, they'll do
Correct.
whatever.
I'm saying the service for the sanitary sewer is not gonna be shut down. I'm talking about the road will be shut down to repair the sanitary sewer.
A portion of it possibly,
Children,
but not.
Right, a portion of it.
30
and
feet
then
of the roadway.
accessing in and out. I don't believe one drive, 26-foot wide, would be adequate for
It's 30 feet.
166 units. That's my comments. I'm gonna vote no against it. I'm just telling you what my reasons behind it.
I respect that.
Okay, Commissioner Casale, you had a question?
Yes, I just want to know how you decide on the breakdown of the units, 123 assisted living and 43 independent living.
It's a percentage, like with a state guideline. We submitted the plans to the state, and they found that other facilities, like some of those assisted living are also memory care. I believe 40 of those are like memory care, and then there's the independent living is about 43. There's a certain percentage that they follow, like nationwide, where they believe that this is what they're going to need, and then they move from the assist. Now, some of those units can be also independent living, but they're designed to be assisted living. So in case for state aid, like some of the people may need like state aid or whatnot, they'll be able to get the help because it's designed and it will be built to meet the state guidelines.
So the state offers you the recommendation based on what they see their needs are for the local.
Correct. And then the independent study was done by us. The market study, it was another recommendation, what they thought that the area needs.
Sure, Commissioner Boutros?
Sorry, I do have one more question.
Sure.
You did say you have NDEQ permit for the wetlands and floodplain.
That's correct.
Are you applying for letter of map revision, LOMAR?
Yes.
Have you applied for it?
No. We have to do the work first.
Okay, let me just explain what that is. So basically, we're changing the floodway from 160 foot, which is basically the flow channel for the river. So now we're making it 30 foot wide. My concern is changing it from 160 foot to 30 foot wide. How much increase is going to be on the floodplain that can impact the adjacent properties?
We're not increasing it.
Have you done a study?
Yes, we have.
But you haven't submitted for too long?
No, we haven't submitted any engineering drawings, but we do have a DEQ permit. I'm willing to share that with you. We're actually going to enhance the
Yeah,
floodplain.
DEQ permits allows you to do work in a floodplain.
Correct.
Raising and adjusting the floodway limits is gonna be through Lomar, and that's what I'm asking,
Right.
and you haven't submitted for that yet.
No, the work has to be done. Once the work is done, then you submit for that letter of map revision change.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
a
Turner.
follow-up on the road situation. Mr. Morrow, when you were asked if you could put another entrance in there, you had said, I think you said yes, or something to that effect.
It's wide enough. It's 150 feet wide. If you felt the need,
I'm just wondering about maybe putting a boulevard entrance in there or something, because she does raise a good point about a secondary access. And I brought this up for residential subdivisions, having maybe not just if the road were to collapse, but if you had a fire or an accident that blocked the intersection or blocked the entrance, you would have a situation where people cannot get in and out of there for whoever knows how long. So, I mean, it's an issue of safety for the residents and convenience. I'm wondering, is that possible?
we'd have to amend our DEQ permit, which we have, the DEQ permit, we'd have to amend that, go back and revisit it and make it wider, or do it as a boulevard as you're suggesting.
So you're not against doing something like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You will need to amend your DEQ permit no
Yeah,
matter what.
that
because
took
it's
us
for the
almost 2
old-
years.
Yeah, but it was for the old layouts. Now you have different layouts. I did review your permit. It was for the old layout, not for the new layout. So you will need to amend it, not like,
Well, the layout, yeah, it's not changing the layout, we were not impacting,
the pond flipped on the other side, so you will need to change it.
right, but, no, but we're not changing the DEQ impacts. We're not changing the impacts of the wetlands or the floodplain.
Just take a look at it. The pond got changed, so the floodplain, the wetland is not a fill anymore. It's an excavation, it's a cut, so it's gonna change the volume. But I'm not township engineer. I guess the township engineer will look at that.
Right.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Wozniak.
Yeah. Mr. Morrow, Mr. Turner mentioned putting in a boulevard type of entrance there. Were you talking about having the whole driveway as a boulevard, or?
I'm not a design expert, but maybe just as you go in, and then maybe you come out on the other side, so that they can be used in the event, they can be, one way could be used in and out in an emergency, and the other way could be double in a normal operating.
Right. And
That's
along
just an
with
idea.
Ms. Poulis' comments, is there any way you can just separate the width of that bridge and do like 2/16s?
2/16s, but the fire chief wants 26,
26?
so I'd have to check with the fire chief.
Okay.
Either that or we do 126 and 116 or something.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think the importance of the boulevard would be where it crosses the river, kind of where the lead-in or, or by the facilities, probably less important. It's more just having that access over the water. Because as our colleague pointed out, you can always drive on grass, after that point.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Mr. Morrow. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this special land use request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. We are a recommending body, and the Township Board will evaluate our recommendation, which is the legislative body. The Township Board will make the final decision on the special land use request. At this time, anyone is free to come up and ask any questions or offer any comments or concerns. And again, we need your name and address, and then when you're done speaking, to sign up.
Richard Dybowski.
And again, if you'll.
I
so
live in
your
Washington
colleagues
Township.
Okay.
And I'm part of a group that owns property directly south of this gentleman's.
Okay, you need to keep the microphone, I know it's,
And that engineer brought up a lot of questions that has me concerned. We have the property south, and we're concerned about flooding that you brought up. Obviously, you can make a wider entrance, but it's probably cost prohibitive if you're starting to talk bridges. So it's easy, I think, to say, well, we'll just make it bigger, but I think we need some understanding of how that's going to be done, if it is going to be done, because of the cost. And I'd like to ask about concern of flooding on our property.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Wayne Bowers, 8296 Pine Creek Drive, Shelby Township, Michigan. My question is two-part question. First of all, again, with the drainage and everything, the watershed. Now, when we had this meeting here last year, it was turned over to the DNR if that was going to be accessible to build on this property. Has there ever been a report from the DNR back? There has? Is this gonna be okay for this? I mean, like the other gentleman said there, is there gonna be flooding over here later on?
Okay.
And also the impact on the nature. I mean, this is one of the last stands in Shelby Township that has trees and everything. I mean, we've already developed land north of it where they've clear-cutted. Behind me, I live across the street, and there's not really a whole lot of places for the animals and everything to go anymore. I mean, when I come out here, that was the emblem of Shelby Township, a nice, big, beautiful tree. Well, the joke is going around, all it is left anymore is just a stump. Here, there's plans to build another one of these north of this development by 25 and Van Dyke. There's another one going on south of this already. I mean, is this what we're going to be classified in that little stretch as the senior citizen complex? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Can you sign in, please? Yeah, thanks. Going twice? 3 times? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Nguyen?
The only additional comments we had to offer were the deviations from the zoning standards for building height and allowable length. Not really uncommon requests, but they would have to go to the Board of Appeals.
Okay. I'll tell you what, one of the first question I'm going to ask you, and with regards to the flooding, these documents are reviewed, plans are reviewed by our engineer,
Yes.
the township's engineer, and they have to maintain, or they can't have water off onto other
Right.
properties. I mean, is there any reasonable concern on flooding?
Well, they did indicate they had permits, and we had asked, as our first comment was making sure we get copies of those permits to attach to the file, so we can document that, that's the biggest issue here, is that they have the floodplain up front, document that you've got permission to encroach into it. And as long as our engineer's satisfied with those permits, there's no, I think, other concern that we would have.
Okay, Mr. Morrow, why don't you come back up? Do you want to offer any comments on this, on the concern on flooding to the,
Right.
the property
You don't
surrounding?
get a DEQ permit to impact the floodplain if you're going to flood the neighbors. I mean, that's one thing that the state does. It's the very first thing you do. You create additional cuts with whatever you're impacting into the floodplain. So if anything, we're enhancing the floodway and floodplain. It's contrary to what you had suggested before, even though you think it's going to be restricted, but you're providing an additional volume on our site to where the water can go and to decrease any potential floating, either upstream or downstream from that.
Mr. Chairman, could I offer one?
Yes, Mr. Nguyen.
The way this process typically unfolds is after it's approved at the Planning Commission and the board, then they do the engineering. We're suggesting they do at least do some of this up front to document that the use can be supported there based on these physical characteristics. And I wouldn't want to even send it to the board until we had documentation that they're far enough along in that process to validate the property could be used this way.
Mr.
And
Morrow?
to, and to answer the question, the comment that was made by the gentleman on Pine Creek, Van Dyke has largely been zoned commercial for many years, and we're trying to get away from just all strip commercial because the market can't support this. So introducing some residential here, senior housing typically is less impactful on the community than other types of housing, and certainly less impactful than residential or commercial. And this site's been zoned this way for well over 30 years, I think. And I remember when Pine Creek was built, I went out there, did the tree inspection. That site was covered with trees. So, that works both ways. You're allowed to remove trees when you have approval, but not beforehand.
Okay. You're in a position to provide the
Yes,
the
we have a
township
copy. Yes.
pre this going to whatever
Absolutely.
decisions made onto the board. Okay.
Yes.
Now the question on the DNR permitting. Where are you in that process? And what
We
is
have a
that?
permit from the DEQ and the DNR.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any final questions from anyone?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to ask about the detention pond. The volume of your detention pond, does it take into account the fill in floodplain?
We're not filling the floodplain as you may think, that because all the floodway is still staying open into the ditch. Did you see our permit? You said you saw our permit.
I did see the permit. So where you have
So
the road,
you must have not.
can we look at the plan? So where you have the road and then the shaded area, the wider shaded area. Not here, next to it, to the left, right? No,
This?
the wider shaded area right next to the
Right in
skinny
here?
part. Where is the floodway?
Th-
Yeah, this
This is all
piece.
floodplain. This is not being touched.
Okay, I can't reach there, so the floodway, okay.
Do you mind if I
Yeah.
approach?
The guys in the glass booth might be pissed, but
So the floodway
They can't get our microphones to
basically
work.
is this
That
piece.
shaded area is all floodplain. Correct.
This is a floodplain.
Correct.
So you're filling this road.
Correct.
So this all is gonna get filled.
Correct.
So I'm asking if this pond has the 2 inches over the site plus
Correct.
the fill material.
Yes. We wouldn't have had a permit without that.
Okay.
That's how it works. You know that. You're an engineer. How do you get a permit?
Just make sure you get Lomar. Just make sure that you
After
get
the work is
letter.
done is when you get a LOMAR. You can get a
You can get
CLOMAR
LOMAR,
prior,
correct.
a CLOMAR, it's a conditional letter of map
Make sure
revision.
that the site is gonna
We'd
work.
rather get the LOMAR after the work is done.
Mr. Wozniak.
And do Clomar. I would, if it was me designing the site, I would do Clomar.
Well, you're not designing the
I
site,
know. But if it doesn't work, then it will be an issue.
obviously.
Well, you won't be able to build it.
Yeah.
He wants to do it after it gets built, the Lomar.
You can get a conditional letter of map revision from FEMA, or you can get a letter of map revision after the work is done. Being that we have the permit from the DEQ and the DNR, they're allowing us to do the work. There's a 5-year permit. If we get the work done within 5 years, then you apply for the LOMAR, which is a letter of map revision. And typically for residential, our first floor is 2 feet above. We almost don't even need a LOMAR because it's not going to affect the site because all the residences are 2 feet above the floodplain elevation anyway. That only applies to single-family residential. So whether or not you get the LOMAR or CLOMAR is,
The comment, I'm sorry, we keep talking about this, but the comment is not about your facilities getting flooded or not. The comment is you're making the 160-foot wide floodway into 30-foot wide floodway. By doing that, you're restricting the flow through a 30-foot wide floodway. So all the upstream water coming in,
you're
Come
talking
on.
to an engineer.
I know, so it's gonna
We
get
wouldn't have
raised. Now
got
I
a
need
permit.
to know, I want them
No,
to
you
see
can
why I'm
explain
making
to
this
them.
comment.
Right.
It's gonna raise a floodplain, and you cannot raise floodplain on adjacent parcel. You can do it on your own parcel, and that's why I'm asking if you done CLOMAR. You did say you did the study to make sure that the
Yes.
floodplain is not increased.
Correct.
We're
You,
gonna-
you realize that we would not been able to get a permit from the DEQ or the DNR if we were increasing the floodway or floodplain. You realize that, right?
Work in the floodplain, floodway, that's the permit you got. but when you submit for Clomar, it talks about the elevation of the floodplain, how much you're increasing it by,
Right.
and then how wide the new floodway is going to be.
We submitted a HEC 2 study that proves we're not affecting the floodway or floodplain in any which way.
So the meeting minutes is gonna show what you're telling us, and then
Yes.
I hope you're right, and,
And if you give me your email, I'll send everything to you and copy you, or Mr. Wynn will copy you on all this
you can,
information
you
that
can
we have.
submit it to the township engineer, and she'll take a look at it.
But we already have.
Mr. Chairman.
She has a
Can I-
copy.
Mr.
Can I,
Lynn.
can I interject here for a second? Why don't, before this goes to the board, or if you want to table, I'll just have our engineer send us a letter documenting what permits and requirements are necessary, and that way we can get that settled.
But but the engineer has to review.
Right, and I
sign
just think-
off before one thing gets done.
Right, I meant,
on the property.
I can try to get some clarification for the file and share it with
I
everybody.
think that's fine, but I don't think,
I don't think it's a condition of this approval, but when it
Right.
goes, before it goes to the board, I'd rather have them have that
if those
information.
are, yeah, I mean, if they have those questions,
Right.
right? Mr. Wozniak.
All right. Anyway, I wanted to point out to the residents and to everyone on the board, these really aren't surprising questions. Our township engineer made some points originally in their report. It must be demonstrated that the storage in the proposed detention area is provided above the existing groundwater normal water elevation. There is no storm sewer indicated for the entrance drive. Stormwater management must be provided for the storm sewer in this area. And all drainage, this is the last, all drainage must remain on site. Adjacent to the entrance drive at the southeast corner of the site, it appears that drainage is not contained. So just for the residents, letting them know that we've already kind of addressed these issues, going to be worked on, and I think everything we brought up here is pretty relevant. So that was, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
All right.
Motion carries. Our recommendation this evening on this item must be based on the following standards: compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to the site. At this time, we may recommend approval. We may recommend disapprove it, or table it to evaluate additional information. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I'll move to recommend approval to the Township Board for Special Land Use Application Number 18-26 SLU 6 for Simon Morrow for parcel number 23-07-09-426-002 based on the following. The proposed use is consistent with the surrounding zoning pattern, which is largely multiple family in character. Adequate access is available to the site from Van Dyke. This will not generate nuisances for the abutting properties. The variance required for the building length is not uncommon for these types of facilities and is supported by the Planning Commission. The proposed use will not interfere with or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or unreasonably affect their value, and the applicant agrees to consider a new design for the entrance to this facility.
Support.
Moved by Turner, support by Apone. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Apone?
Yes.
Mr. Wozniak?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
No.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
Who supported that?
Good luck.
Supported that. Thank you.
Next item is another public hearing. This one might be a little more, what's that?
Should have tabled. He's going to get it done.
It may not be as combative, but I trust it'll be a lot more interesting.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I was compelled.
Carol, very
I guess anything could be combative, I don't know. And you can You flip the tape yet?
Can I flip it?
Yeah, flip it early.
Shirley?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your vote. Being privileged. Is it on display up here Monday through Friday at the
Yeah.
offices here?
Yep. Go to, you see the planning department.
Thanks.
We can do this, bring it, Shirley.
Sure. Township can board a little extra tape. We ready? Okay, next item is site plan number 18-47. Tell you, if you want to communicate, do it outside, please. 18-47, special land use number 11, Ellen Sally. Easy enough. GPD Group Professional Corporation for Taco Bell. Since this is a public hearing, I'll ask the secretary to read the notices published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following special land use. Applicant Ellen Selly, GPD Group Professional Corporation for Taco Bell of America, LLC, 520 South Main Street, Suite 2531, Akron, Ohio, 44311. Proposed use, restaurant with drive-through. Location, 50851 Van Dyke. West side of Van Dyke, south of 23 Mile Road. Site plan number 18-47, SLU-11. Sidwell number 23-07-21-226-013. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, November 26, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the special land use application. The application for special land use in the site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on November 7, 2018. There were 55 property owners, and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on November 2nd, 2018.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
And could you explain on the uses under the present zoning and if the special land use request is appropriate to the district?
Present zoning is our C2 linear retail district, which provides for this type of retail use. However, being that they're asking for a drive-through, a special land use is required, which is permitted under that section.
Great, thank you. Format will be very similar to what we just previously witnessed. Have the petitioner come up, state their request and the reasons for it, answer questions from the board, then open to the public for any questions or comments, and then allow you to answer any concerns or questions that are raised. With that, I'll need your name and address, please.
Great. Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm with GPD Group, Ellen Selly, sorry. And my address is 520 South Main Street, Suite 2531, Akron, Ohio, 44311. And today we are here to talk about a new Taco Bell site and just kind of some things, as you mentioned before, we're here because we need site plan approval and special land use for a drive-through, but with site plan approval, we also have to go through building materials, which are unique to this Taco Bell and will need to be discussed in front of the board here. So we will get to all of that, but just so you guys have some history, this, what we're proposing is a container store, and Taco Bell started looking at container stores back in 2015, and they put a tiny little container store at a, it was a music venue. It was an outside festival, and they had.
Okay, can you? This is tough,
Sorry,
I know, but it's
I will
gotta
bring
be.
it up
There
here
you go.
then.
Right, there you go. And if you turn your head, turn your body with it. All right.
But
Well, didn't quite get it. So, but you look a lot smarter than Mr. Morrow. So.
Well, so they started with this container store concept quite a while ago, and that container was very small. It was just for drive-through and walk-up. They have now evolved and wanted to make a drive-through that would be sustainable for an entire building operation. So all the standard Taco Bell use that you're used to, drive-through for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night, they want to do that with the container store. With that, there are some challenges that come with that, but they have made this so there are several containers that are stacked on top of each other, and they can meet all the same functions and have I think there's 7 containers, is that right? So there's 7 containers, and the dining room is actually not going to be a container. That is going to be built on site and have some nichiha, some looks like brick. The face will look like brick on the outside. So with that, there are some other things, and I have some pictures of adjacent properties that I don't know if maybe we can pull up, but
There you go.
right next door is a Burger King. And so you might think, well, why a container store here? How is this even going to fit in? So this is the building that's next door, and if you look, it's very boxy, and that the portion where it has the Burger King sign, it almost looks like the same shape and size as the containers we're proposing. And there's some other elements to our building too that we're also trying to give that wow factor, and we're looking to do a color changing tower here, and this is just going to be for on our front tower where our signage is going to be, and it's going to have it's a canvas screen, and it's going to have some LED lights behind it that slowly change colors. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is the video that's kind of running through it. But if we can flip to the next one too, you'll see that on the other side of us is a T-Mobile, which also has some bright colors inside of it. So it will all kind of fit in the theme here, which might be surprising, but it will all look the same in this same corridor. So that goes through the history, why we want it, and I just want to make sure we got it all. So perks of a container are you're going to have a faster construction schedule. You're going to have green initiatives because you're going to be reusing product materials. And you're also going to be in the trend. Taco Bell, they're always trying to be ahead of the curve and be that trendy new restaurant. And so that's really going to fit in this. And with talking to Glenn, we have, and with the planning department, we were looking at some different options originally. And what we came to is let's paint the containers black, and let's kind of make them look more like the neutral feel of colors in this area, but then also have some brick-looking elements. So that's what you'll see on, you can see that's the dining room area there. That is the different color, and then the black is all the containers. These renderings don't do a great show, but I think in your packets you should have that full package of rendering that you can see all the different views of the building. This just kind of condenses it and puts it all on one. Some other features of this building are some artwork elements to kind of just break up that monotonous black. So that's the building, but then the site is another reason why we're here. And I'm just going to step over towards my site plan. Also, it's all in your packet, but the site is not a standard square, but there is the drive-through that comes around. This is going to be the drive-through window up here at car number 1, and we have a stack that goes all the way up to 9 cars, and you can probably even fit more than that before even starting to stack on the site. This site is currently a Pizza Hut, and the building sits on this side. So we are going to flip that, and this is the Burger King down here, and now the building's going to be over here. One of the questions I know that Glenn had brought up is a bypass lane. That is not required by code, but there is sufficient stack, and we do meet standard code requirements, but the width of the site does not allow us to fit in a bypass lane unless we were to reduce the width of the parking, of the drive-through lane. The drive lane. That's the only way we'd be able to fit in a bypass. But it is sufficient, meets code for that reason. Other things to point out on site is we have a dumpster here in the back. It is a 24-foot wide drive aisle, 24-foot wide curb cut here in the front for dual access. And we meet parking requirements. Drive-through requirements, we are going to propose a small patio in the front here, and there's also going to be a lot of landscaping on site. We will also fix the sidewalk in the front, and there are a few comments on that on how I think the township engineer wanted that revised. So we will make those changes too. But other than that, with the site, we feel we're pretty much on target. It's more of the building and the building elevations that we think that we're going to need to discuss tonight. But we're here to answer any questions, and I'm here with GPD, and JC is here with Taco Bell to help answer some questions too.
Great, great. Now, is this a franchise or is it going to be a corporate location?
Corporate. They do have the option, though, that they could sell to a franchisee at any time, but my company is contracted through corporate Taco Bell to do everything right now.
No.
Good evening. I'm JC Buitrago. I'm with Taco Bell. I'm with the architecture and design team, and I'm actually in charge of all new concept design for Taco Bell. So this is my design, basically. First of all, I just want to let you know that this is actually intended to be a national rollout. It's not a one-off that we're trying to do. And as Ellen mentioned, Taco Bell is an innovative company. You know, we're the only ones that can get away with putting Fruity Pebbles on your tacos. I don't think any other brand can do that and actually get away with that. And like in our products, we want our buildings to also be innovative, and we feel that this building actually is a pretty good reflection of the brand itself. And so we are thrilled to be here, and we want Shelby to be actually our first ever fully dining shipping container store that we can actually build and then roll out on a national level after that. So just wanted to make you know that it's not a one-off. It's actually intended to be a national rollout design. So thank you for your support.
Okay, maybe talk a little bit about structurally. Is it more you use the container for the facade and then you sort of built a framing on the inside of it, or how?
So we basically left the containers to the back of the house. We were cognizant that this being a new design, even though it's becoming a national trend to use shipping containers for residential and restaurants. And by the way, a lot of our competitors are using containers for their own designs. We wanted to have the dining to be a hybrid, built on site, so that we could achieve the volume that we want, so that our consumers are actually not feeling like they're in a low ceiling conditions. And also cognizant of the site context, we wanted to make sure that we put our face, best face forward on the front of the building, and left the shipping containers relegated to the back end of the house and the drive-through side.
Okay. To the board, questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
I think it's a very creative and cool design, but I'm just wondering, I have some questions. You call this a national rollout. Why did you pick this location in Shelby Township for this facility, of this building? You call it neo shipping crate architecture? Why would you pick this location? I'm just curious.
To be honest, we only have about 30 locations per year on, of assets that belong to Taco Bell that are company owned. And we felt that being that you're so close to the Detroit, being a suburb of Detroit, that this would be potentially a good location for that.
I showed your rendering number 5 here to a friend of mine. I showed it to him and said, here, what do you think? And he said, oh, it looks like they're building a Taco Bell. I said, no, wait a minute. This is the finished product. He looked at it and thought I was crazy and said, are you serious? I said, yeah. He said, well, it looks cool, but it looks weird. I mean, it's the more I see it, the more I kind of like it. I'm just concerned that it may be a little too much for this location. I'm just looking at the rendering that you could see from Van Dyke. I think that might be a little too much with the double stacked containers. I've never seen a restaurant like this. I've seen it done in housing, downtown Detroit. They're doing that for housing. And this, to me, looks like it would fit in perfectly in East Lansing or Ann Arbor or something like that. Level of comfort's not quite there. I really admire you for what you're doing. I think it's great. But I'm just a little uncomfortable with it, just because it is probably so new.
Well, and some things that I'd like to point out is I'm going to flip this so we can all kind of talk about the same sides of the building here. Whoa, maybe not. Thanks. Oh, we'll just hold it here. So what's going to be visible from the road exactly? Obviously, your front elevation, where you have mostly the brick-looking facade. And that's the look that we're going for. Yes, it's a container store, but it's a dressed-up container store. It's not just a box, 8 boxes stacked on top of each other. It's not that. It's a different configuration, yes. But the front, this tower, that's going to be your predominant thing, is that and this light up here. That's going to be what stands out, not the black container. This side over here that you're looking at, that view, so that's going to be this side. This is all drive-through side. The Burger King building is very close to that. They have their parking lot and their building, so when you're driving down Van Dyke, you're not going to be able to see much of this side at all. You're going to be able to see maybe, yes, that's the right side. You're going to see maybe this front portion. Some other things that Taco Bell is also doing now is this open kitchen concept. So if there's not a car parked right in front of this drive-through window, they're going to see windows into the building. It's not going to look like just the black that you're seeing. You're going to see windows.
And not only are you going to see the windows, you're actually going to see the people behind the windows getting your food ready, actually making it. So it's the food becomes obviously the star of the show here.
I have to say, my initial reaction was this seemed like more of a use for a more urban, area than suburban. But it frankly didn't take me very long to sort of come around to say, from a planning perspective, that stretch of Van Dyke has been developed for 70 years, 60, 70 years, and
Right.
and a lot of it's old and tired, and there's a quiche, there's a lot of, so to have sort of a little catalyst, something that's new and that's a little bit outside of the box. But as you point out, and I think that was a very nice job to show what is next to it, a new what's it, Verizon or?
It's a T-Mobile, and they actually have a gigantic pylon that is bright and pink and vibrant.
I mean, so it kind of fits, and then and it's Burger King, and frankly, your demographic, isn't me anymore, or but my 3 20-some-year-old sons are all about it, and this would be something that would fit more to them, and that not that this is going to be a destination, but at least it gets people talking about, frankly, an area in the township that we've talked a lot about very recently. About some redevelopment plans, and that sometimes it takes little small sparks to start that. And if people are thinking more in those terms, I think it's helpful. And I'm not sure that I like the pinstriping on the side, but short of that,
We can change that, or that's just meant
No,
to give you a sense of
I'm
motion.
I'm not designing your
the
building.
emotion of motion is what we call
And don't
it.
undersell, own, if it's a container, own it though, and don't say, it's going to minimize this. I mean, it is what it is, and, we need to sort of, and ultimately, we're just going to recommend, and the township board's the one that frankly gets voted on. Well, it used to be Mr. Wozniak. That'll have to defend people, what the heck did they do? But I'm very intrigued, and I'm encouraged by it, and actually I like it.
I want to echo what you said, Mr. Chairman. The context is important here. And I think Ellen did a nice job explaining architecturally what's around it and just the age of this site. I mean, this is addition by subtraction and then addition again. My biggest concern was a selfish one. How many phone calls is my department going to get about this? You get the phone calls when everybody cuts a tree down that, there's something, a violation. We'll get a lot of calls on this, but I think once people get accustomed to it, it's kind of nice to be the first sometimes. Plus, I might be here when I get started anyway, so
Yeah, right.
somebody else
Yeah, right.
We would love for you to be the first.
You can find a location for them in Charlotte then.
But the other part of it, and I think Ellen did another good job explaining, part of those other materials are pushed to the back, so it's not forward. So we had some reservations, but I think the more we hear about it, the more comfortable
And that
we are
was
as
designed on
staff.
purpose, by the way. We did. We understood that there was a concern about having the shipping containers right on the front, so it was a cognizant design decision to push them to the back in the drive-through elevation and have the best-looking facade right on the front, with obviously our dominant feature, which is our bell tower.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dalu.
Sir, in a different state, how do the municipality inspect the inspectors? How do they conduct their business to buildings like that and commercial? I personally walked in the residential part in Detroit, in Midtown, and it's really It's one of these things, when you go inside, you can't really tell the difference, because you know it in your mind it's container, and then that's the only reason. But how do the inspection get conducted and building like that?
You're talking about the actual building inspections?
Yeah.
So this is all done by a third-party company that is actually has the authority to inspect the shipping containers as they are being put together in a warehouse. And they basically show up on site with the sticker that basically says it's already been pre-inspected and approved by the time that it gets on site.
And with that, something that the cities will approve and...
Maybe to Mr. Nguyen, you know, the building department.
Yeah,
still
our
has
building
to-
department do that. That's a pretty good explanation, but obviously they would have to show some documentation by a national company supporting that our codes have been complied with. And there may be a different process for that if it's pre-manufactured.
Right. Although this is our first Taco Bell container, it's not the first container store that's being built in the country. This is a trend that's, we're not the first in the space. Starbucks has done it, Chick-fil-A has done it, McDonald's has done it. We just want to catch up to them.
And I was seeing Starbucks, they coming up, so we need to get used to that, because Starbucks, they put in 10,000 locations, similar idea with containers. So
Correct.
I don't know, no matter how it looks and what we think it is gonna look like, is better than the existing building that we have there, so.
No more Pizza Hut buffet, though.
Our same brand, we're Yum. Pizza Hut belongs to us, so we're just taking over.
I do have
Mr.
one
Boutros,
question.
yes.
Maintenance of the containers, like what, do they get rusty
Mm-hmm.
with environment?
No, they do not. They'll be painted obviously to be a black color like that, but they don't.
I know, like how often do you paint it? Do you maintain the paint, like maintenance of the
It would be the same maintenance as any other building. I mean, corrugated, it's basically a corrugated metal facade, which you have at Burger King next door.
And then they won't rust.
They will not rust, unless if we wanted to, which some of our buildings have that, but we don't use it here.
Okay, anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner
I just
Moore.
have a comment. I echo Mr. Turner's comments. I think it's very trendy and unique. I think it does fit more of an urban setting, college campus type theme. I don't know if I can wrap my arms around this as far as putting it here in Shelby. I just don't think it's the right fit. I love the idea of Taco Bell going in, all the kids. I mean, it's a big thing that they're missing out on in the north end of Shelby. And then you add the little design, it almost looks like graffiti on part of the, that's probably what you're attempting to do with the artwork on the container. But I'm having a tough time. I just don't think it's the right fit for our township. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes.
Commissioner Wozniak.
Sir. How many Taco Bell restaurants are there in this country?
Roughly about 7,500.
Okay, and how many are you building this year?
This year, total company or in total?
Total company.
Total is going to be about 278.
Okay, and how many of those will be this type of design?
We're starting with this one.
Okay, now, my understanding is that there's 4 basic designs with the containers. Is that correct?
No, sir, this is it right now.
This is it, okay. Because when I went on the internet, they showed me pictures of like 12 different designs with containers. Was I seeing something incorrectly?
You might have seen that South by Southwest. That was the one I originally referred to, and
I saw
that
that.
looks completely different than this. That was just a standalone building that's just for walk-up and drive-through service only. It was originally at a music festival, and they actually relocated it to California. So you might have saw some different renditions of that, but this is the only one that's going to be full operational Taco Bell, drive-through and 40 seats sit down inside.
The new one on Crooks Road, what is that, standard build?
I don't know what's on Crooks Road. I would think that's a franchisee, but
It's done in grays and blacks, and it looks like containers.
it wouldn't be a container. It's probably either Nichiha or
So we have other building designs within our lineup that are not shipping containers. We probably have 5 different designs throughout, basically within our lineup. You probably saw one of those. But it's similar in tones and color and finishes. Obviously, we want them all to be relatable so that you can tell it's brand at first sight. This is the Taco Bell building. So the finishes on the building are going to be similar from the shipping containers to our standard lineup building design.
So I'd also mention that this design kit started with like 30 SKUs and now it's up to 130. So are there more designs available than what we're looking at?
For the shipping container?
Yes.
We can always adapt. The original design that we developed for the shipping container did not have brick on it. We had a James Hardy fiber cement siding on the face. We understood that that the preference here was to use a brick on the facade, which is why we changed the design. So the original template is not as, it's basically the same layout and the same sort of language. The finishes is what changed, so that we can accommodate Shelby's requirement.
Yeah, I don't want to be a fuddy-duddy, but from the comments from the rest of the board, I think this might be a bit avant-garde for us.
Not all the board. The younger ones.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah, right.
this is what I'm
People
saying.
hated
this
the
is-
Eiffel Tower when it was built originally. It's not a landmark.
So this isn't the only design we have to approve. We can see what else they've got, if you want to let them show it to us. So that was the main purpose of my questioning and comment.
Okay.
Because they got other stuff they could show us. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
honestly, I came in here tonight very skeptical and pessimistic on this,
Yeah.
but after listening to Ellen talk and after seeing it, I think it possibly could be something cool and a neat addition to this area, even though it is avant-garde or new and unique and creative. Maybe it's not too new, unique, and creative. I don't know, but I'm having second thoughts. Thank you.
On a half-acre parcel in the middle of the township. I mean, okay. I mean, its footprint isn't, it's not a million. It's not a million square feet. Down the road. It's
Mr. Moffett, that was the main reason I brought that up was what Mr. Turner was saying. If you have doubts about this, they can show us other things. We can have them bring us other designs. It might be something more acceptable to all of us. Thank you.
That is true. Anyone else? Commissioner Casale.
Thank you. I would agree with Mr. Wozniak. I think our comfort level isn't quite there yet, and if we could see some options, how some of us are feeling that might be just a little bit too forward-thinking for us, and the neon lights and the Shelby Township. Maybe that the whole dark side is what I can't get over.
We do have, do you have the other options?
There are some other ones we can click through. There's some different options.
Yeah, I guess we're not buying a home, so we're we're going to pick and choose elevations sort of like on the fly here. I think this is what's been presented. I think this is kind of what we need to deal with. If there are other elevations that can come back to the board for us to, or maybe even to work with the planner on another sort of.
So we would like to keep this project moving forward. We are ready to start design tomorrow. If you guys say, we like it enough, work with Glenn and get it figured out, maybe add some more brick on the side, fix your graphics that are not to your liking, we can work through those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we could schedule a study meeting, I guess, if that's, to sort of, because I just don't want it to be a case of negotiating here with 9 different opinions as to, because we'll never get anywhere.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
Can I ask another question that
Sure.
goes along with that?
Sure.
So if there was a special study meeting, what would be the timeline then? Because we know that we still need a variance too, that we have to go for. There's some site variances. It's for a setback on one of the sides, and there was a second variance too, I think. But they're site related. They're not building related. But we have some other steps that we have to do, and even though JC mentioned that we're getting this property from another Yum partner, there's still a timeline that we're trying to stay within because we have constraints on the purchasing or leasing of the site. I don't quite remember which one this one is at the time. So we just want to make sure we don't hit a roadblock.
Sure. Mr. Nguyen, do you have any
Yeah, we can easily
thoughts?
do that, but I'm trying to think, we're coming into the holiday season. We only have one more meeting before the end of the year, although we might be able to schedule a study meeting in lieu of a second meeting. So you want me to send out some dates tomorrow for everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, we could probably do it next month. I'm willing to put it together.
Okay.
And what would be the deliverables for that meeting? Is
Here's-
that,
Can I make I think you would show us if there's any other material options for the outside. Let's assume the basic footprint of the building. What other material options would you have in some of these areas?
is that just additional brick, or are you saying no container store?
No, maybe just, remember when we talked to the counter, we said, are there any other ways you could introduce some other brick somewhere on the building that would minimize the amount of containers? And I think the area where it might be most appropriate would be doing a wraparound on the south side. a
And
little
we
bit.
do have that on one of these slides. I think it's maybe 5 or 6.
Can we take a look at that, Mr. Chairman, just to see if that's moving in the right direction?
Let's see if it comes in here. Yeah, can we flip that one right there? So it has the additional brick on that drive-through side. And it's just the wainscot that wraps around the bottom. And again, you will be able to see a little bit of that front, but there's that Burger King building and their parking lot. So it will help break up.
I've got a better suggestion.
Mr. Wynn?
Why don't you get me some of these designs this week? I'll get them to everybody. I'll put this on the next agenda at the end of the meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight. Maybe we could at least get some material for you by then, because that's as quick as we could do something.
Okay. And then do a new public hearing.
We don't have to do another public hearing. We could just close the public hearing.
Yeah.
We don't have to do another one.
Okay.
We just take action then.
Even if it's on a different elevation?
Yes, you could give us some revisions. We could say, here's option A or option B, and see if we can find some middle ground here.
Okay.
I think they've already moved in that direction. I agree with you. We don't want to design this by committee at the meeting. It's too hard to do.
You okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Kirk?
Just let you know, the public hearing is really just for the drive-through approval.
Yes.
So the issue on the materials, that's your discretion, so I don't think it requires another public hearing.
So could we still get the approval for the drive-through if that's something we could vote on tonight? And then just have to do the building elevations at the next meeting?
Yeah, they're kind of the whole pack. It comes together. I mean, the drive-through is incidental here, I think, to the decision. But if we don't approve this building, then you're going to have to start from scratch again.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and variances are going to be first Thursday in January. So,
And actually, one of the variances they don't need. Actually, neither of the variances do they need. We double-checked them. They don't need those variances. So I think if we could get you on the next meeting as a continuation, get us that stuff by in a day or two, I'll get it circulated and we'll get it to everybody.
Great. And so some of the options I think that we'll be presenting is the additional brick along the drive-through side, and do we need to show something else with the color changing tower?
Now, just show us, I think, the
Not sure.
material there. I think the material is important. I think it doesn't read what that face material is, Ellen.
Okay.
And maybe some samples of that to show.
Yeah, do you want to look at it now?
No.
Yeah. Or go look at Crooks Road by
I will.
M59.
So we'll get you on the next agenda, get us some additional material, and we'll put that on and continue this discussion.
great.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
The location is great.
I need to call it first. Okay. Don't go away yet. We have someone here who may want to ask a question. What? Oh, you're with them? All right. So do I need to read it? All right. So, given that there are no there is no one here wishing to offer public comment, I'll entertain a motion to
So
close the
move.
public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do I need to read through all this stuff, or can we just table it? Okay. Is there a motion, Mr. Turner?
Yeah, I'll move to table this to our December 10th meeting to give the applicant a chance to show us the new facades for the building.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now you guys can go. All right.
December 10th.
All right. Planning Director's report.
The only thing I want to point out is we do have a study meeting tomorrow night, and that's going to be at 7 o'clock in the lower level conference room. And the consultants we hired to do the traffic study for sections 1 and 2 will be presenting the study. You should have already got a copy through email and a whole package.
It's a good place to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dowd. Is there support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.